I was gonna bring on Orthodox Muslim, and immediately he's just like, I want to debate somebody. Like I spoke to him on the phone a little bit. He's like, give me all, like, he's like Islam Makachev, like, feed me the entire division. I want to give me Dustin Poirier, give me McGregor, feed me.
If I asked you to tell me about the biography of your favorite athlete or celebrity, you'd be able to talk to me about them for a very long time. But if I asked you the same question about the man, the best man to walk the earth, the messenger, peace be upon him, a lot of us at least would be in a very awkward situation. Why? Because a lot of us don't know the seerah and the biography of the Prophet, peace be upon him. This is dangerous, not just for us adults, but for our kids, for the generations to come. Who will teach them about the messenger, peace be upon him? Who will teach their kids about the messenger? And a lot of people don't like to read books. Unfortunately, that's just how it is. This is why I want to introduce you to the muslimman.com, a structured seerah website that will take you through the life of the Prophet step by step. Each part includes a video, reading, flashcards, progress tracker, so you're not leaving forgetting what you learned and watching random clips. And before you even start, you take a seerah clarity score to see how good you are. The first part is completely free. Make sure after watching this video, you go down to the description below, click the button, and learn the biography of the greatest man to walk the earth.
I should put on my headphones. Just in case. TTS off for now, yeah.
Hey, SNEAKO, how are you doing?
Good, how you doing? Just need to
Good.
add my...
How you doing? Assalamu alaikum, SNEAKO.
Alaikum salam. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Do you have a camera, Richard?
I do. I thought I turned that on. Let me check here.
And YouTube, come to Kick right now. Come to Kick YouTube, kick.com/SNEAKO.
Okay, I guess I have to turn it on here. Call. Okay, there we go.
Hey, good to finally meet you guys. I've been wanting to collab with the both of you separately for quite a while. Richard, I'm sure you saw the DMs. I DM'd you 2024 and 2025.
Yeah, sorry, I'm kind of bad with emails and DMs. It was nothing personal. It's just it is personal. I'm just lazy.
Oh, no issue. And then I saw you made a tweet about the anti-Zionism thing, conflating it with like the leftist idea that anti-Zionism is separate from being anti-Judaism, and we could have that discussion.
Yes.
And Orthodox Muslim, I've been wanting to speak to you for a while. They are very happy that you're here. They've been saying that we should have collabed for a long time, and so the pretext for this conversation, discussion / debate or whatever is that I did want to speak to you both individually, and it seems like as soon as I texted Orthodox Muslim, he's like, feed me all of them. I want to debate. I want to immediately. So yeah. So there's a couple of things to discuss. I think there's just a couple separate ideas. So maybe we could lay out some of the topics of discussion for today. Or Richard, how about we start with where you think there's a point of contention?
Well, I've noticed among leftists that they want to de-Judify Zionism, basically. They either want to say that it is an episode in European colonialism, or they want to say that it's the aircraft carrier of the U.S. empire, basically. Washington just benefits from Israel because we use it to attack enemies and steal oil or whatever. I think both of those positions have a kernel of truth to them, but I do think they're fundamentally wrong. I think Zionism is a full expression of Judaism, and I don't think you can understand it without that. And thus, if you are going to attack Zionism, you at some point have to attack Judaism. And the left is totally unwilling to do that. Now, I probably lumped you in there with like Ilhan Omar or whatever. I mean, apologies. Obviously, you can prove me wrong. Yeah, that I think that is worth saying. Like, they are fulfilling prophecies in the Torah. And so if you do find this problematic, which many do, you need to start to be more skeptical of the Torah. I don't think they're willing to do that. Many leftists are atheists, and they're not willing to do that. Muslims aren't willing to do that as well because the Torah is ultimately sacred. Christians, a lot of Christians, particularly Protestants, take the, they get it. And in a weird way, I agree with fundamentalist Protestants.
Can
I
I say
just
something to
don't
that?
believe them. Yeah, go ahead.
So you said Muslims are also in the same camp because they view the Torah as sacred. Can you just disambiguate what you meant by that?
Well, I mean, Islam is obviously created hundreds of years after the compilation of the Hebrew Bible, but it's a sort of sequel or continuation of Judaism in the sense that you are descended from Ishmael, who's descended from Abraham. And, when Muhammad made his night ride, he went to Jerusalem. And I don't think that's a coincidence. It's sort of, in much in the same way that Jesus comes to Jerusalem on a donkey. Both religions are kind of going back to their source. I guess I would think of it as Judaism as, it's like the source code. Christianity is Judaism 2.0. There are some significant differences, but it's derived from Judaism. I mean, Jesus is a rabbi, and Islam is 3.0, a new version.
Okay.
And all of these things are written by Jews as well.
Yeah. So I think you have a very confused idea of what Muslims think, to be honest, with all due respect. So no, we wouldn't say that because I'm talking about from our position. I mean, you as somebody externally looking from the outside into Islam, you may come to that conclusion. But Islam from within, we don't think that we're a continuation. Rather, we think rabbinical Judaism is a ideology that broke off from Islam. Christianity is an ideology that broke off from Islam. And the Torah, you're going back to whether Judaism is Zionist or not. So I agree with you to a certain extent that rabbinic Judaism is inherently Zionist. I mean, there's no doubt about that. If you open up the Talmud, you look at what the sages say, the Tanaim, the rabbis, I mean, it's very clear. The Jewish objective is to have a Jewish state. The Messiah will come, he will rule the world, they'll have, however many numbers of slaves, and so on and so forth. But that's rabbinic Judaism. If you read the Torah within an Islamic lens, I would say it's not Zionist, because then the land promised to the Israelites is really promised to Muslims, Israelite Muslims, not on the condition that they are Israelites per se, but on the condition that they are Israelites and that they keep the commandments and not break God's covenant. So if you keep God's covenant, God will give you the land and you are worthy to have the land if you're loyal to God. If you're not loyal to God, whether you're an Israelite or not, then he's going to give you to your enemies, which is what happens with the Israelites when they, worship false gods, they worship Baal, God sends them into exile because they're not worthy of having the land. So I would say Muslims have an inherent ownership to that land, not just to the land, but to the whole world.
I understand your perspective. Yeah. I mean, you have to be honest here, though. When this might make perfect sense in your mind and among your colleagues and friends, but if you tell an average secular person that Christianity broke off from Islam and rabbinic Judaism broke off from Islam, I mean, they're going to look at you funny because it seems like you're looking at this backwards. And so the things that were of the recent past are kind of closer and you're assuming that those are original. Now, I understand you're a sincere believer. So I understand, but I'm just telling you that many people might find that a bit discombobulating. But
I'm objecting to that, though, and I'm saying this is a claim that we could historically substantiate without assuming the conclusion of Islam.
Okay, so do you... let me ask you a couple of questions so I can better understand your worldview. So do you believe that Moses, when he was leading the Israelites while they were wandering, that they were practicing Islam?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But now, what's Islam?
Submission.
Okay, but-
Yahweh.
So okay, so no, so that's too broad. Somebody
Okay.
could say, "Hey, I submit to my PS5," or "I submit to
Right.
my pregnant baby
SNEAKO
mama."
does that. Yes.
Okay, well, I don't know about that.
I'm just
I don't know where that came from. So, Islam is not so linguistically. Islam is submission, but religiously, what is Islam? In a more specific theological definition, what is Islam? Because you asked me, was Moses a Muslim? If you
Right.
mean linguistically, then you have conceded that he's a Muslim because he submitted to a deity. So you must not mean linguistically, you must mean in a different sense. That is the more specific theological sense. So what is a Muslim theologically?
You are submitting to Yahweh, the God of Abraham, the God of Israel, the God of Jesus. And is
Okay.
that I'm trying to define it in the most
Okay. All right.
uncontroversial way.
Okay, let's just go with that. Did Moses submit to Yahweh?
Yes, when he
So Mos-
circumcised himself.
So Moses was a Muslim. Oh, you just said, was Moses a Muslim? And I said yes, and you just like laughed like it's so ridiculous, right?
Well,
But then just 1 second. Then I asked you to define what a Muslim is. You gave a definition, and you conceded that Moses satisfies that definition. So you conceded Moses is a Muslim.
look, I understand where you're coming from. I really do, but you have to put yourself in the shoes of a secular Westerner. They're going to think that you're playing word games with this. I mean,
that's why
Islam
I
did
said we
not
can
exist
historically
until the
substantiate
7th century.
Prove it.
And when the Quran was not constructed until
not what
the
it
7th
said.
century.
Well, Islam is not contingent on the Quran. You've misunderstood what Islam is.
Well,
Islam is not contingent on the Quran. That's why we say the Quran is the final revelation of Islam. If the Quran is the final revelation of Islam, then Islam can't possibly be contingent on the Quran. So if you're telling me, oh, well, you have to look at it from how the Western sees it, or the foreigner, or the secular, well, obviously this is not something they're familiar with. They're not Muslims, right? Obviously they're not just going to accept at face value. The question should be is, can I, as a Muslim, historically and theologically substantiate my claim without begging the question, without circular reasoning, without assuming my conclusion? I say yes, without a shadow of a doubt. Jesus was a Muslim. Moses was a Muslim. Abraham was a Muslim. They're all Muslims. And Christianity and Judaism are heretical sects that are condemned by God.
Do you think that Jesus was the Messiah foretold in Zechariah and other parts of the Hebrew Bible, that he was from the house of David, that he is the anointed one? Do you believe that, or do you?
Yes. So I think Jesus is the Messiah. Okay. Now, whether Jesus, according to what we find in Christian literature and our biographical material that exists, such as Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John in the Gospels, Jesus doesn't quite fulfill what the Old Testament says the Messiah will fulfill. So the only reason there are some fulfillments, but they're too vague to be specific fulfillments. Like, for example, like Matthew says Jesus came riding on a donkey into Jerusalem. Right. This was to fulfill what Zechariah says, behold, Jerusalem, your king comes lowly riding on a donkey. Now, besides the fact that Matthew misinterprets Zechariah and has Jesus ride two donkeys, however the hell he did that, I would say that a man riding a donkey in Jerusalem is not enough to substantiate he's the Messiah. The Messiah is not supposed to just ride donkeys. I could ride a donkey. You could ride a donkey. He's supposed to be a king who will restore Israel. So that's why I only believe Jesus is the Messiah, because the Prophet Muhammad tells me he's the Messiah. There's nothing in the Gospels that would convince me Jesus is the Messiah.
Fascinating. So is Muhammad the Messiah?
No, Muhammad is not the Messiah. So if we just want to break that down a little bit. Messiah in the Hebrew Bible linguistically just means anointed one. As a matter of fact, the awaited Messiah that the Jews are waiting for is never called Messiah in the Hebrew Bible. He's called a branch. He's called the seed of Jesse. He's called Prince David. He's never called Messiah. Other peoples are called messiahs. The priests
Cyrus
are
is
called
anointed.
messiah. Cyrus is called the Messiah. David is called God's Messiah. So if you mean, is the Prophet Muhammad anointed? Is he anointed, chosen by God? I would say linguistically, yes. Is he the Messiah, the awaited eschatological figure? I'd say no, that's Jesus.
Okay. So in that, but I thought you just said Jesus was an incomplete Messiah.
No, I said there's nothing in the Gospels that would convince me, as somebody just reading the Gospels, not contingent on the Quran, that Jesus fulfills messianic prophecy and profile.
Oh, I see. But
I
with
believe
the
he's a
Quran-
Messiah because the Quran says he is. Because I have demonstrated and established that the Quran is revelation from God, is true, therefore its content is true. Therefore, if it says Jesus is the Messiah, then Jesus must be the Messiah.
So are you waiting for the Messiah, another Messiah, or the second coming of Jesus? I believe that Jesus does return in the Islamic, sort of parallel to Revelations, the end time scenario.
Yeah, we believe Jesus is going to come back. We believe in the second coming, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
This is all fascinating stuff. So in terms of rabbinical Judaism and Zionism, the modern state of Israel, etc., you think that these are heretics in the sense that they rejected Jesus, they rejected Islam, even though they had a chance to convert to Islam with the coming of the Quran and Muhammad, etc. And so they're just waiting for their own Messiah that is never going to come. They keep missing it.
And they're waiting for the Antichrist.
Waiting for the Antichrist. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so they're waiting for who they think is the Messiah, who we know is the Antichrist, and who we know that the Antichrist in our eschatological tradition will have a number of followers of Jews. Most of his followers in the end times will be Jews from the Middle East and from that region. So, yeah, they're waiting for the Antichrist. And yeah, so I agree with you again that Rabbinic Judaism is inherently Zionist. But what SNEAKO is meant to say is that there is this pure, bare religion of submission to God found in the Torah and the Hebrew Bible. And that is original Judaism, aka that is Islam. Original Judaism or original Christianity.
I want to clarify my position on that because based on Richard Spencer's tweet conflating my belief with like the leftist Muslims who say that anti-Zionism is not anti-Judaism. And then of course, we all know the Torah Jews who say free Palestine. But my belief is that Rabbinic Judaism replaced it and that this is the new religion and that's a falsehood. And so I think that leftist Muslims I think that that's kind of a coping mechanism for them to not get anti-Semitism allegations.
Right.
They don't want to conflate the two because they are separating from Nazis and they coming off like they're racist.
I get it. Yes. The Mehdi Hassan types do that. Well, I misrepresented you and I'm glad to be clarified in that sense. So I guess I could unfurl my perspective, but before I do that, so when you're saying that Judaism, so there's a rupture in Judaism, does that rupture occur with the destruction of the Second Temple in 70 AD?
So you mean when Judaism went south?
Right, yeah.
Yeah. So it would be with the rejection of the Messiah. And that's actually the reason God destroyed their temple. Actually, Jesus prophesied about this very event in the parable of in the wedding banquet, in the parable of the tenants. Basically, God, he sent Israel prophet after prophet after prophet. These Israelites who are supposed to be God's chosen people and uphold his covenant, they kept killing the messengers and prophets, killing one after the other. Then God has enough. He gives them one more chance. He sends the Messiah. They try to kill him as well. And so he destroys their temple. He takes away the vineyard. He kicks out these tenants. That's a parable, right? Tenants in a vineyard. Right. The Jews are the tenants. He kicks them out. And he gives this vineyard to other tenants, to another nation that will produce its fruit. Historically speaking, the nation that produced its fruit after the Jews were kicked out of the covenant are the Muslim Arabs. They came with one Arab prophet, did what the Jews couldn't do with thousands, according to them. There's been over 1 million prophets, according to the Talmud. They couldn't do what Islam did. In just 70 years, they controlled more land than the Roman Empire did in 800 years. And they controlled all the lands of their enemies, and all the land that was promised to Abraham, the Muslims controlled.
Yes. So let me tell you a little bit about my perspective on this. So there's a scholarly consensus that the Gospel of Mark was written around 50 AD
70
or so. Yeah, I agree with you actually, but so there is a prophecy by Jesus that the second temple will come crashing down in the Gospel of Mark. There's also a consensus among scholars that Mark is the original, or I shouldn't say that. It's the earliest of the four Gospels. John is the final one. It's the most florid and developed. You have the synoptic Gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke. Mark was actually older, and it is a little more laconic in its writing. It doesn't narrate the Bethlehem birth nativity scene. It sort of begins right in the middle with Jesus as a itinerant rabbi. So most scholars believe that it was written around 50 AD. Now,
70.
I agree with you, but let me just let me go with this, okay?
It's not 50 though, it's 70, but yeah, continue.
Okay. Well, many scholars have suggested 50. That would imply that Jesus offers a prophecy and accurately foresees the destruction of the second temple.
Which scholar says 50? The overwhelming consensus is 70.
I don't want to argue with you about this.
Well, you made a claim, brother. You can't just make a claim and just.
Yeah, I know, but it's not an important one. I'll grant it to you if you want to.
It's important because you want to say that Jesus made a prophecy. Well, if it's written in 70, that's not really a prophecy, is it?
Well, it's sort of funny. You're arguing with me, but you're sort of making my point. Just let me roll here. Sure.
Go ahead.
Yeah, because I'll if it's not, this is a dispensable point for what I'm trying to say. Okay. Sure. I believe that Mark was written after the Roman destruction of the second temple and the revolt in Jerusalem that was narrated in Josephus. We have archaeological evidence for that. I don't believe that Jesus foresaw anything. I think that Christianity as a kind of Judaism 2.0 was developed after the destruction, or at least the Gospels was developed after the destruction of the temple. And it was a sort of new way forward. We can't claim that we are, the descendants of this Davidic kingdom and we kick ass and have this magnificent temple and we're amazing. We actually need to find another way, and we need to open up the religion, even beyond the 12 tribes, etc. It was a sort of new version of it that was constructed after this failure, almost like after the fall of the Soviet Union. There is an attempt ongoing to reconstruct and kind of reframe Marxism for the 21st century, understanding the dramatic failure of Marxism in the 20th.
Sorry, failure on whose part? With the temple
failure
point?
Marxism.
With the temple point.
Oh, with the temple. I don't believe that Jesus, as he is depicted in the Gospels, ever existed. I think Jesus is a literary figure, much like Hamlet.
Brother. Hey, so
there's no evidence for Jesus outside of books about Jesus.
Yeah. So
I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
No problem, brother. So
he's not mentioned by many Roman historians who covered the time.
Just let me tell you.
Sure, I'll let you go.
Just let me tell you. Okay. Yeah. To say Jesus didn't exist, is a historical blunder, brother. No serious historian believes in Jesus mythicism. It's a joke. The evidence is overwhelming. Why? Because the existence of Jesus satisfies our rigorous historical criteria for authenticating historical events. Jesus is independently attested by multiple early sources.
Josephus.
Yes.
I don't take the Gospels as an attestation of Jesus's
Why wouldn't the
existence.
Gospels be attestation?
Well, do you think that Hamlet existed?
I don't know who that is.
Oh, well, Shakespeare has a famous play called Hamlet. You probably
okay.
heard it. Yeah,
that's fine. Yeah.
When I traveled to Denmark, I one time, this is many years ago, there's actually a castle, and there's supposedly Hamlet's grave. Oh, this is where he might. I don't believe that in the slightest bit. Hamlet, as he exists in our imagination, exists in words. He exists. He speaks English. He was born in 1600 in London.
I'll tell you the difference. Okay.
Yes.
You're assuming that the Gospels are not biographical material, which most historians agree that the Gospels are ancient Roman biographies. That's point number one. Point number two, forget the Gospels. Jesus is attested by the year 50 by the Pauline letters. There are 7 undisputed Pauline letters. Paul is writing as early as the mid-50s, and Jesus is attested in Pauline letters.
Paul never met Jesus.
He doesn't have to meet him. He attests to his existence, and Paul meets his disciples and those who are acquainted with him, like James,
Acts.
like Peter. Not in Acts.
That's another. These are another just fabulous history.
Not in Acts. In Galatians. Brother, no, you just said something wrong, brother. Not in Acts. In Galatians, where Paul himself writing, he says, when I first revealed my revelation, my first instinct was not to go to Jerusalem. Rather, I went to Sinai in Arabia. Then after a few years, I went to Jerusalem and I acquainted myself with Peter and James, the Lord's brother. But I didn't see anyone else. Then after a few years, I went to Jerusalem again and I met with the disciples and they gave me the right hand of fellowship. Now, you have me defending Paul for some reason. I hate Paul. But your position is so ridiculous that you have me defending the historicity of Jesus. The fact of the matter is, sorry, turn on my light here. The fact of the matter is, Jesus is independently attested by so many early sources, Christian and non-Christian. To say that he didn't exist is ridiculous. It's completely absurd and there's no evidence for it.
Yes, the only way that we have attestation of the existence of Jesus is through canonical works of the Bible. And particularly with the Gospels, Paul is an ideologue, but with the Gospels, he is depicted in a mythical way that would have been accepted by the original audience of these Gospels, basically equating him with gods, including Adonis and Dionysus. He is a mythical figure who does mythical acts. Paul discovers a Jesus. Paul does not talk about Jesus's exploits very much at all in the epistles. He finds Jesus in the Old Testament or the Hebrew Bible, with which he was very, very familiar. So it's like he is finding a character in literature and creating this image. But in terms of the narration that you see in the Bible, we don't see any of that in Paul. There's just ideal.
So you're not actually addressing anything. So all you're doing is spewing nonsense. You're not addressing anything. Okay, you're just saying, oh, the Gospels are myths. What's the evidence for that? So look, I'm not
because
Christian,
they adhere to mythic archetypes and tropes that would have been familiar to readers in the first century.
They do not, and I'll tell you why. Do you think Romulus is a historical figure?
No.
Romulus is not a historical figure?
No, he's a mythical figure.
What about Apollonius? What about Apollonius of Tyana?
Remind me who that is.
Apollonius of Tyana is a contemporary of Jesus. He is a philosopher who goes around preaching, healing, and so on and so forth. Then his followers after that write biographies about his life. So do you think Apollonius is?
I simply don't know enough to express an opinion.
No problem. What about Caesar?
I think Caesar was an historical figure. Yes.
But in accounts of his life, he does miraculous things. He's called the Son of God. He's called the God on earth. Is he a fable? Is he a myth?
Yes, I think he is almost surely
he's a myth.
a real person. We have
But
archaeological
he does
evidence. We have
mythical things.
numismatic evidence.
Just hold on.
We
He
have
does-
evidence from people who were his enemies who had no motivation to talk about him.
Oh, good. Was Josephus a Jew?
Yes.
Was he a Christian?
No.
Does he mention Jesus?
Yes, he does.
Good. Does Tacitus
The
mention
Roman
Jesus?
Wars.
Does
Not
Tacitus
really.
mention Jesus?
Tacitus mentions Christians. He's writing
Nope.
much later.
No. You're confused. You're talking about Pliny.
No.
You're confused. Tacitus mentions Jesus by name. He calls him Christus.
That might be the case, but Tacitus was not a contemporary of Jesus Christ.
He doesn't have to be a contemporary. That's not how
I
history
think he's
works.
writing in the mid-2nd century.
Okay.
If I'm wrong, I mean, I can go look it up, obviously, but he's not a contemporary of Jesus Christ.
Okay. Tacitus doesn't have to be contemporary. Josephus doesn't have to be a contemporary. Okay, that's not how we figure out people existed. For example, do you think Alexander the Great was a historical figure?
Yes.
Is there anybody in his life who attests to his existence?
What do
Contemporary
you
to
mean
him?
by that? Again, as I explained,
Is there just
hold
look,
on,
brother,
real
brother,
quick.
just look. Is there anybody who attests contemporary to Alexander to the existence of Alexander?
yes.
Who?
I don't know offhand.
You
but
don't know. Brother,
no,
the earliest biography
I'm
about
not
Alexander
ChatGPT, brother. I mean,
but you're
look,
you're making historical claims.
this is the difference.
You should be able to substantiate your historical
yeah.
claims.
Well,
Clearly,
if
you're
I
just
had time to substantiate this, I could. But we're speaking live, so that's it's a little bit of a high obstacle to clear right there. But no, for historical figures, for us to know that they exist. Yes, numismatic evidence for political leaders is powerful. We don't have anything like that. All of that comes in terms of the images of Christ come later. Archaeological evidence.
So what?
Direct. Could we find a diary of someone who witnessed an earthquake after the crucifixion? We don't have anything resembling this.
You're not actually dealing with the evidence. Is Jesus' existence independently
the
attested?
Gospels can't be
look.
evidence.
Okay, just look. You said the Gospels can't be evidence. Why? Because they're canon.
Do you think Shakespeare is evidence that Hamlet existed?
No, because that assumes that Shakespeare intends to write history. That's the difference. Okay?
Well, he did write some histories, and there's a
but
lot of
brother,
historical context.
You keep cutting me off when I'm trying to respond to you, brother.
Oh, okay. You cut me off too a little bit, but I take your point. I take your point. Go ahead.
It's okay. It's natural to cut each other off here and there.
Yeah, go ahead.
You just ask me something, I just won't respond. So that assumes the Gospels are like some kind of novels or some
yes.
they're written, they're a genre that's written that's not not to write history. That is contrary to the evidence. That is contrary to the consensus. Okay, that's number one. There are ancient Roman biographies about an ancient person. That's number one. You can't say, well, we can't take them because they're canon. Well, that doesn't work because genius, they weren't canon when they were being written. They're not canon until the 4th century. That's when you have the Council of Laodicea, the Council of Rome, the Council of Hippo, the Council of Carthage. Then you have Irenaeus of Lyon in the year 185, tell you that, these are our Gospels. There's 4 Gospels because there's 4 corners of the earth and all that stuff. Then you have Justin Martyr quoting them in the 2nd century. But when they were written, they were not thinking they're writing canon. They're writing a biography about their beloved Christ. So it's not just the Gospels, by the way. This is how scholars classify the source material in the Gospels. You have Mark, that's the earliest Gospel. You have Matthew and Luke, they rely on Mark and literary dependence on Mark. That's called the synoptic problem. Then you have John. John is an independent tradition. So now let's look at our independent sources that mention Jesus Christ and his historical life. You have Mark, you have John, you have special M, the special material that Matthew uses that doesn't depend on Matthew, that doesn't depend on Mark. Special L, special Lucan material that doesn't depend on Mark. And Q, the material that Matthew and Luke use and agree with each other against Mark. And Paul. So you have Paul attests to Jesus. Q attests to Jesus. John attests to Jesus. Mark attests to Jesus. Special M and special L. That is 7 early independent attestations within the first century of Jesus. What do you have to tell me Jesus didn't exist?
Let me ask you a question. So, do you believe that the gospel writers were Roman journalists?
Do I believe what?
You said that they were Roman biographical accounts. Do you believe that they were sort of the equivalent of Romans, that is non-Jews, writing journalism or something like that?
So I don't know what you mean by that. All I'm saying when I say they're ancient Roman biographies,
I guess I'll explain. What I take from what you mean by that is that they are just, only the facts, hard evidence written from a Roman perspective about what really happened. Via eigentlich gewesen in the Rankian tradition. This is just the facts. What happened? Is that how you take the Gospels?
Oh, no. When I say ancient,
that's not how I read them.
So when I say ancient Roman biographies, I'm referring to them as pieces of literature in respect to the genre they belong to. So the genre they belong to is that these Gospels were written in Koine Greek in the Roman Empire 2,000 years ago, and these Gospels are biographical materials about somebody who existed and lived called Jesus Christ.
Yes.
Paul attests to him.
How I take them.
You haven't You haven't answered to the independent attestation. What evidence do you have against the 7 independent attestations of a Jesus Christ?
You're coming up with the like Kvela source and all of these kinds of things.
Kvela
Obviously,
source?
John Q source.
The Q source is consensus, and it is posited, as Dr. John Kolpenberg says in his book, as a logical necessity that follows from the synoptic problem. So Q is accepted by 95% of Jesus scholars.
Okay. Clearly, John is also relying on the synoptic gospels. I mean, I would say.
What's the evidence for that?
He's offering flourishes to these stories.
What's the evidence? Okay, so
you
haven't told me why John relies on.
Hold on. You spoke for a little while. Let me.
Yeah, but you're not substantiating your claims. You're just uttering things and not substantiating anything.
I'm not, and that's a bit rude.
Let's let him answer without interruption, please.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. Throughout the ancient world and throughout the world today, there is a tradition of mimesis. You could think of that as copying. And there's great works that you look to. You want to bring the structure of the story to a new work, maybe change the characters. You want to bring in some old tropes from older works and make them sing in this new age. I have no doubt. I agree with the scholarly consensus that Mark most likely came first. He inspired Luke and Matthew, and in my mind, I can't prove this for certain. In all likelihood, the writer of John read the synoptic gospels. Maybe there were other traditions or other sources that he read. But you are claiming that because this story is reiterated multiple times, that makes it more and more true. The fact is, if you take something like comic books in the 20th century, Krypton, that we there's the Superman, the original source, the drawings by Schuster, and I'm forgetting the other guy's name. And then later on in the radio version of Superman, they bring in Krypton and or kryptonite, and then later on he gets a dog in the 1950s and so on. But see, they're all these different sources, and they're all looking at the same figure. So this means that Superman must exist, or Clark Kent must exist. It doesn't work that way at all. It indicates that many different authors and writers are engaging in a mimetic tradition with other sources. John is clearly inspired by Euripides, among other things, and his version of the Bacchae, and the structure of that story as it's relayed in John's Gospel, which is the best one. He's learning from the best. So you're not proving that there's that there's a real Jesus Christ who walked on the face of the earth and walked on water. You're proving that there are many artists sort of doing their own kind of spin on a material, whether the Synoptic Gospels are taking it all from Mark, whether John is looking at another source or looking at Mark, which is what I would find most plausible, it doesn't matter. They're all sort of working on these different stories. Over my lifetime, there's been like 3 or 4 Superman movies, and they have a lot of similarities. There's sort of a key blueprint. There's been 25 James Bond movies. They're all sort of the same. They all follow a blueprint, and they're all sort of referencing one another. None of that means that James Bond is a real man. And so, no, if I would be totally convinced that Jesus was real, if we could authenticate, I don't know, some sort of diary entry, a legal document, some sort of archaeological evidence, I'm not sure what that would be. But the problem with using the Gospels as a source is that these are brilliant, inspiring. I say this as a sort of atheist, Apollonian, and so on. I love the Gospel of John. It is a brilliant piece of work. I am moved every time I read these Gospels. Their symbolic coherence, their depth is actually amazing. I understand why they are read 2,000 years later. I think the same thing about Euripides and the Bacchae. I think the same thing about Oedipus Rex. I think the same thing about Hamlet 500 or 400 years later. They're great works of art that are taking inspiration from other artists, and they're creating a magical literary figure that captures the imagination. The figures that have captured the imagination, at least from the ancient world, are all sort of fictional.
Are you going to keep going on forever, brother?
Muhammad, etc. Because they are larger than life. They can turn water into wine. They can walk on water. They can rise from the dead. They can say things. They can engage in philosophy that was truly mind-blowing for people in the ancient world. That's why they're great, because they're literature. Go on.
Okay. Well, brother, I just let you go on for I don't know how long, 5 minutes.
I'll let you go on too.
That was a fair amount of time. That was a fair exchange of time.
You got it. Go for it.
Just look. I want this to be a discussion, back and forth. When I get to monologue and then you get to monologue, there's nothing going on. I want you to engage with the substance, because with all due respect, brother, you're not. You're just saying a whole bunch of things, making all kinds of claims. When asked for evidence, I don't know. Well, I'd have to look at it. That's not how conversations work, okay? So the reason, and I want you to engage, I don't want to monologue, the reason that these are independent sources is because there's no literary dependence. So yes, Matthew and Luke are not independent in the material they share with Mark, but we can't use them as independent sources for the things they say about Jesus because they get it from Mark. So they're dependent sources. But there is special M material, what scholars call special M, that is Matthean material that is not from Mark. So then Matthew is getting his information from somewhere else. This is independent attestation because it's not dependent on Mark. It's another independent source. You have Matthew, special M, special L, Q, and Thomas, and the Pauline letters. What now do you have evidence contrary to say that no, although Jesus is independently attested and he meets rigorous historical criteria, that he's not a real person?
Okay, I don't have to prove that Jesus didn't exist because it's impossible to prove a negative. You have to prove
that's not how it works. That's not how it works.
That is how it works. I can't prove that dragons don't exist.
Oh yeah,
because there might actually be a dragon behind that tree. I just haven't discovered him yet.
Is there a buffoon under your desk right now?
No, there is not a buffoon. Well, I'm the only buffoon in this room.
Okay, yes. Okay, good. So you came to a specific epistemic certainty that a negative is true, right?
Well, yes, under the desk, but I can't prove that there are no buffoons. I don't know what I can't prove that no dragon exists.
Good.
Jesus
Good.
is not under my desk either.
Good.
But again,
good. So then,
it's
Just let me
on
finish
you
there.
to prove that he
Just let
exists.
me, just let me finish. Just let me finish there. Okay.
Go ahead.
Because I'm not claiming a buffoon exists. I asked you, does a buffoon exist under your desk? You said no. You didn't even have to look under. And you don't have to look under. Why? Because you don't have epistemic reason to believe he exists. Therefore, there is no justification or reason to think he exists. This is how you prove a negative. If there is no reason, sufficient reason to prove something exists or to come to the conclusion that something exists, we can therefore reasonably conclude that it doesn't exist. Do you have a problem with that?
Yes.
Okay, what's the problem with that?
Well, I don't know. There might be some strange species of fish that we have no reason to believe exist, but that might very well exist.
Right.
And I'm going to have an open mind towards science discovering a new fish one day, maybe
so you
tomorrow.
You mix categories. Whether it exists is a different question from whether you have a reason to think it exists. Therefore, you concluding that it doesn't exist, right?
I'm a bit mind-boggled by this logic.
I know you're boggled. I know you're boggled. This is how it works, brother. If you have no reason to think something exists, then you are justified in concluding that it doesn't, right?
Millions of people are inspired by Superman, James Bond, Hamlet, whatever.
You're not responding.
And that
brother.
is a tremendous reason for me to believe that those figures really existed.
I asked you a direct question.
They
Can
don't.
you answer it? I asked you a direct question. Can you answer it?
Yes.
The answer is yes?
Well, no. What was the question?
If you have no reason to think something exists, you are justified in believing that it doesn't exist, right?
If I have no reason to believe that something exists, I'm justified in believing that it doesn't exist.
Yes.
No.
You're not justified in believing?
If I have no reason, I have no reason to believe that there's life on other planets.
Hold on. Okay,
but
beautiful.
I don't foreclose that possibility.
Good. Do you believe Bigfoot exists?
I don't.
Oh, are you justified in that belief? Is that a reasonable belief?
I'm justified, but I'm open to Bigfoot.
Oh, you're justified.
Show me the.
Good.
Well, no,
so you just contradicted yourself. You just said if you have no reason to think Bigfoot exists, that's my point. If you have no reason to think Bigfoot exists, you're justified in concluding that Bigfoot doesn't exist. If you agree with that,
because we discover things. No one had reason to believe that giant lizards walked the earth 40 million years ago. And the fact is,
that's the point.
I agree.
If you have reason, then you're justified. But if you have no reason, you're not justified, right?
Look, I don't want to get further boggled by this.
I know.
I believe that there is reason enough to create these powerful literary figures like Jesus or Muhammad in order to create extensions of Judaism, new religions that have been wildly successful in motivating people and changing the world and changing history. Paul is motivated. Paul's an organizer and a philosopher and an ideologue. He's absolutely motivated. John is motivated. John is an artist. He is a poet, and he is a ideologue of sorts. He does it through narrative, not direct prose. They are clearly motivated to create this new religion, much like Karl Marx told stories about one day the working class will rise up and take over the world, etc. They're storytellers with a motivation to change history, and they did.
Yeah, so
more powerfully than Karl Marx.
Richard, you saying they're motivated or that it's a myth and a story doesn't make it that. Is there any substantial evidence you could offer to show that Jesus or by the way, you think Muhammad doesn't exist either?
I don't think Muhammad existed, no.
Lord have mercy. Brother, the Prophet Muhammad is more attested to historically than your grandma. You know what the earliest... No, not through the Quran. Do you know what the earliest historical attestation to the Prophet Muhammad is?
With the Hadiths or something?
No. It comes from a Christian letter called the Doctrina Yaqubi, written 2 years after his death.
Interesting. Well, I'll take a look at that. I'm
So you
certainly-
haven't looked at the evidence and you've concluded that he doesn't exist?
No, I'm not alone.
Lord have
I'm
mercy.
relying a bit on Tom Holland. Now, look, I am not an expert on Islam. I know less about Islam, certainly, than I know about Christianity and Judaism. So I will just simply put that out there. Islam would fit the pattern of Jewish scribes creating a kind of Judaism 3.0 to appeal to a wide population. So it fits the pattern of what they did with Christianity
just to let
and
you
what
know,
they did with the Bible in general, the Hebrew Bible. I mean, do you think Adam and Eve existed?
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
For goodness sakes, this is just absurd.
Yeah, okay. Why is it absurd? Do you have any evidence?
Because it's a literary text that
Says who?
Says me. That
Oh,
no
says
serious
you.
person
Just trust
thinks is
me,
not
bro.
a myth.
Just trust
think
me, bro.
Achilles existed?
I said that Adam and Eve are not real. Therefore, you should believe in brother. What is this, man? This
Because
come
it's
on, brother.
obviously symbolic. It's obviously
Yeah,
symbolic and
yeah,
literary,
yeah.
and thus the way to look at Adam
It's
and Eve
obvious.
in the garden is through literary analysis and
Yeah.
not through history.
So you and I think that there is a big flying unicorn outside my house right now. You should believe me because I said it.
Well, that's more plausible than Jesus, but go on.
Okay,
I don't believe either.
That says, you see? So, I mean, look, you are not actually providing any substantial evidence, which tells me a little bit, with all due
You have to
respect,
provide
Richard.
the evidence.
I did. All I've been doing is providing evidence.
Yes, and
just
I
wait, and your
I
response
told
was, no,
you
just wait, Richard.
simply
Your-
artists
Richard,
looking at other
Richard,
artists is
hold
not
on.
evidence. It
Richard.
is a historical fact.
Richard, your response was, nuh-uh. Trust me, bro.
No, it wasn't.
That's your-
I
yes, it was.
addressed.
You did not
listen,
address the evidence.
I don't want to get testy here, but I did respond to what you
did
said.
not. You did not.
Oh,
You did
okay.
not-
I don't
you did
want
not
to
respond to
I don't want to
any
engage in
evidence.
a yeah, I did thing with
Okay.
you, but
Sure.
but let's just let's drop
Richard.
it.
Look, Richard. Look, I want to know, because I think on these religious topics, you're way out of your depth. I want to know what made you known. Why are you Richard Spencer? What's your ideology? I think people will be interested in that. And I'm also interested. I only found out about you yesterday. So who are
Okay,
you
good.
and what do you stand for and what do you believe in?
Yes. Well, we are working right now on a critical analysis of the Abrahamic faiths, basically, that we call, and I say we, Mark Brahman and myself, that we call REM theory. And we do this every week, basically, in terms of literary texts. We're actually going to read the book of Revelation on Sunday. And we've read all through the Bible, etc. But it's an original theory, and our book is actually going to be published this summer. And it is a critical deconstruction of Judaism and Christianity. Islam gets a few mentioned, but we're focusing on.
So what do you believe
two.
in though? Like what's your worldview?
So when people say that, what do you believe in this God or whatever? There's a kind of Christian background that assumes. So Christians not only believe that Jesus is the Son of God and he redeems us from our sins and he's going to come again, they also believe that he was a real guy. So there's a sort of historicity implied in Christianity. There's a historicity implied in the Hebrew Bible in terms of Moses and Israel leaving Egypt and the Holy Land and all that kind of thing. So there's that level of faith of you have to believe these things. In fact, you're damned to hell if you don't believe both of those things, primarily that Jesus is your path to heaven. But implied in that is that he was a real person. We don't believe these things. And I think we can access a different conception, a pagan conception of religion, where we see gods as fundamentally archetypes. They're archetypes of virtues, manliness, warfare, etc. They're archetypes. They're deep, primordial archetypes like Venus or Caelus, god of the sky, or Gaia, Erda, etc. But they're also ethnic archetypes.
Okay.
And I think that layer of analysis, to look at it racially, so to speak, is actually quite powerful. And that is embedded in the Bible. It's embedded in Ishmael, who is I have to be honest, a rather demeaned character to be the ancestor of Muslims.
Yeah,
a son of a slave who was blessed but not chosen by Yahweh and sent out into the wilderness.
is Jesus? Hold on, just 1 second.
Yes.
So, this idea of Ishmael being demeaned is a theological development that comes after Islam, according to scholarship. Jews and Christians pre-Islam, or I should say Jews pre-Islam, didn't have a demeaned idea of Ishmael. It was only until Muslims come around that Jews now start looking at Ishmael that way. So I just
that was my impression reading Genesis, to be honest. I mean, I think it's a plain reading of Genesis that Ishmael is blessed but not chosen, as Yahweh tells Abraham.
Okay, so where does it say that? So again, now
he explicitly said he's blessed too, but it's Isaac who's the one.
Nope, it doesn't say that. That's Genesis. I know exactly. That's Genesis
I'm just
chapter.
Gonna find it.
Yeah, you don't have to find it. Genesis chapter 17, verse 18 to 21. It's in the back of my mind, brother. You don't have to go on your computer. Genesis 17, verse 18 to 21. Read it. You're gonna see that you've completely read it the wrong way. You have no idea what you're talking about, man. To be honest with you. So here, read it.
Your wife Sarah will bear you a son, and you will call him Isaac. I will establish my covenant with him as an everlasting covenant for his descendants after him. Yep. And as for Ishmael, I have heard you. I will surely bless him. I will make him fruitful and will greatly increase his numbers. He will be the father of 12 rulers, and I will also make him a great nation. Beautiful. But my covenant I will establish with Isaac, whom Sarah will... I mean, yes, I didn't say that he's a wild donkey of a man. That's how he's described.
You missed. Okay, brother, you're just shotgunning stuff. Can you start from verse 18? Because you missed the context. Verse 18, please.
Sure. Let me just go back there just 1 second.
So just we could establish the context, then we could go through the points that you made.
Yes, I read verse 18.
You didn't.
And Abraham said to God, if only Ishmael might live under your blessing.
What does that mean? According to the Torah, what does it mean to live under God's face or before his face? That's what the Hebrew says.
Right. I get it. I understand that...
The question was, what does it mean, brother?
Well, he's blessed. I mean, you can tell me.
No. So in Genesis, I'll tell you what it means. It's contrasted to Genesis chapter 1, where God says to Abraham, Abraham, be obedient and live before my face or under my blessing. Right. Meaning that to live under God's face is to be obedient to God. Okay? So that's the context. So then Abraham asked God, make Ishmael an obedient nation, a nation that lives under God's face. God says, as for Ishmael, I've heard you. I will make him an obedient nation. I will bless him. I will make him into a great nation. Then it says, but my covenant I will establish, right? The Hebrew doesn't say, but my covenant I will establish. The Hebrew doesn't use the word but. It uses the word and my covenant I will establish. We have no problem with this because the initial covenant was given through the children of Isaac or the children of Jacob. Then, after their disobedience, God's plan is to make Ishmael a great nation. So how did Ishmael become a great nation? Was it through Islam?
I guess.
Beautiful. Yes. So Islam is prophesied in the Torah according to you, Richard, and he's a wild donkey of a man. You know what that means in Hebrew? It's an idiom. You know what it means?
Tell me.
It means that he will live in the wilderness like Ephraim is called a wild donkey of a man, and Issachar in Genesis chapter 49 is called a wild donkey of a man. But he's an Israelite. Are they being demeaned? Are the Israelites being demeaned when they're called a wild donkey of a man?
Some Israelite tribes do get demeaned, yes.
No, I said Issachar in Genesis 49 when the blessings are given.
Right.
Is Jacob demeaning his son?
It's not Judah. I mean, I don't know what to say. He is demeaned slightly. I'm not saying
Tell me where he's demeaned. You're just making stuff up. It means you live in the wilderness.
Look, listen. Okay. It's fine if we disagree, all right? But just let's dispense with the, you're just making stuff up. Or
No, you are.
It's just
No, you are, brother.
Well,
Because
it's
look, with all due respect, this is an insult to my intelligence because all I do is study this stuff. Like you're reading Hebrew. You're reading Hebrew idioms.
You know, information
not
is not
understanding them.
knowledge, and it's definitely not wisdom. And
Well, yeah, that's clear.
Look,
that's clear.
in Jacob's blessing at the end of Genesis, clearly Judah is the namesake of the religion of Judaism.
Judah is just the leading tribe.
Obviously the primary one.
Oh, he's the leading tribe.
Exactly what I said.
Yeah. How does that make a subject demeaned? Exactly.
When I say demeaned, I am not saying that the Bible says you're scum, you're nothing. What I am saying is that they are of a secondary or tertiary rank to the primary line, from which David will be descended.
Rank in virtue? Or rank in authority?
Virtue?
Rank has different respects.
Judah has more authority than his brothers. I think
agree.
He has more authority than Dan and others. Yeah.
Yes, Judah has authority. How does that mean that the other tribes are any less in virtue?
Well, I mean, I simply do think that they are lesser than Judah. Judah is the namesake of Judaism.
Virtue.
It is the primary tribe.
In virtue, brother.
Well, we're just playing word games at this point.
It's not word games. You're not being articulate. When you say somebody is demeaned or lesser than, I need to understand what that means.
Why don't I use the word demoted as opposed to demeaned if demeaned bothers you?
Yeah, in authority.
Can we agree on that so we can kind of move?
In authority, not everybody's going to be the leader. Somebody's got to be the leader. So yeah, sure.
I agree. So somebody's
a leader and somebody's not a leader. That's fine.
Yeah.
So,
okay. That's what I mean. So we can agree. Okay.
But we keep coming back to this biblical stuff. I want to know because I don't know exactly your position. I heard about you yesterday. Are you a white supremacist or something like that? That's what I've been seeing. I want to know more about that.
Mm-hmm.
So what are that's what I meant.
No, I'm not a white supremacist.
Okay, so what do you believe in respect to that stuff?
Right. I mean, we're focusing on criticism of the Abrahamic traditions, and from out of that, we're developing a rejuvenated Apolloism, and that is returning to the height of Aryan civilization, which is the Roman Empire, a god of a son, the real son of God, son of Zeus, and we want to return our civilization to this type of central worship of Apollo.
Who's our?
Europeans, Aryans, whatever.
What satisfies an Aryan?
It's a good question. It's sort of a linguistic concept in many ways, but I think it implies a racial concept that we can just use the word white for. But they're Aryans in the Indian peninsula and they're so on.
That's tautological. I'm asking you what's in it. Oh, you're just repeating the thing twice. I'm asking what satisfies whiteness. What is that?
Well, just to repeat myself, one of the best ways to understand what an Aryan is one of the ways that we can scientifically is through linguistic analysis. There's an Indo-European language family, stretches well beyond Europe. But that implies a race, if you will. Okay. Now, it's tricky, and there's always blurred borders whenever you do something like this. But that is what I am referring to when I use the term Aryan.
Okay.
And if we want to use the word European or white just because it's easier to converse, we can. Although that's not the best.
So gypsies and Roma would be included in that, right?
No.
Oh,
they certainly don't speak an Indo-European language, and
they are of Indo-European heritage, are they not?
No.
Yes, they are. What are you talking about?
Well, just because they were in a land where I guess we can connect it with Sanskrit doesn't mean that they're Indo-European.
So how does that? Okay, so now you've lost.
There are African Americans who speak English, and that's the only language they know. But I wouldn't call them Aryan.
Okay, so 1 second. You just said they're not Indo-European. They are. They do speak an Indo-European language. Okay. Now, why are they not included in your white race? Because they originate thousands of years ago from a different land? Well, guess what? Europeans originate thousands of years ago from different land.
They're, to the degree that they speak an Indo-European language, it's one that they inherited. As I said, African Americans speak English.
All right, what does that mean, inherited?
They're not part of the conquering Aryans who entered the. That's question
begging. Why? That's circular. They're just as Indo-European as anybody else.
Look. Okay, you can actually trace history through language. Okay. And it's a remarkable thing. You know the word rex, Latin for king? You've probably heard that?
Yes.
Right? Regnum, regime, Reich. There's also word Raj in Hindi. So you can look at these cognates and trace them back to a Proto-European language that implies migrations and splitting.
The Europeans didn't migrate?
We can use language to infer history. It's blurry, it's complicated, but you can do it.
And all Europeans, they're a different tribe, Germanic and Anglophone and all that stuff, they all migrated from somewhere, right?
Right. There is an implied original Aryan homeland, yes.
Oh, what's that original homeland?
We don't know, but it might be in
How do you know
Eurasia.
The gypsies?
It might be actually
How do you know the gypsies don't come from it?
Well, again, I'm gonna let me just look up. I'm just curious if they actually speak an Indo-European language. Now, that doesn't negate my point, but what I'm saying is that when you find cognates in words where there are words that are clearly related and they would not have been, it's too close to be random. You can trace different migrations from a spot. So there, in all likelihood, was a sort of Indo-European, an Indo-European homeland somewhere on the Eurasian continent. These people went to Britain, and these people went to the Italian peninsula. These people went to the Indian subcontinent. These people became Persian. Persian is a Indo-European language. Now,
Persians are white too?
Well, again, I use the word white advisedly, but yes,
are they
certainly Indo-European? Yes.
Okay, and why are the gypsies not Aryan?
Just because a people begins to speak an Indo-European language does not mean that they are from that originating tribe. Would you say that African Americans are white because they speak English?
Well, I'm using your own standard. That actually
a non-rhetorical question. Would you consider African Americans white because they speak English?
Oh, because whiteness has nothing to do with language in my view. That's your view.
Yeah, well, if you can...
That's your view, not mine.
Yes, I agree that race and language are independent. I could go travel to China and my sons and daughters will learn Mandarin and they'll never know English. But I don't think you would consider them Chinese either. So yes, language and biology, two separate things.
Right.
The
so that's why I'm asking what satisfies whiteness.
You can trace these things. You can trace biological movements through language because it implies an original people splitting and engaging in migration or conquest of other tribes. So this is not like can we be totally certain about these things? Of course not. Can we engage in informed speculation up to the point of absolute certainty? Yes.
Again, you keep begging the question. Can you demonstrate that gypsies are not Aryan, that they don't come from this pre-Aryan homeland and cultural identity? Can you demonstrate that? Because they have all the characteristics. They're European. They are Indo-European.
Because they migrate around Europe?
Everybody migrated. Dude, everybody. The Germanic tribes did. The English tribes did. The French, everybody did. So they did just like everybody else. So now please demonstrate that gypsies are not white. Otherwise, you'd have to say gypsies are part of your.
Yeah, Romani is
hypothetical.
okay. Interesting. Romani is an Indo-European language. Very
Yeah.
interesting. So,
So are they white?
as I've said, just to reiterate, language, biology are not the same thing. However, we can see how language implies biological migrations through the study of cognates. So the fact that a people like the Roma or like who speak a Indo-European language, Romani is Indo-European, you're correct, or African Americans speak English, we simply have to make a distinction that they are not members of the original Indo-European or Aryan people who brought these languages to other lands.
Well, demonstrate it. Why are they not white?
I just did.
All you did is just assume.
Do you think the language moves without people? Like language just on its own, the letters
brother,
hop around and move somewhere? Obviously, people carry the language.
All right. And why are the Gypsy and Roma not European? Why? And how do you
If you want to call the Gypsy and Roma Indo-European because they speak Romani, you can.
That's not what I said. I said, why are they not white? Because you gave this, arbitrary criteria for whiteness. They have to speak the certain, a language family. Their language has to fall within this family language class. They have to have a certain migration route. Okay, demonstrate how they don't fall within what satisfies whiteness.
I feel like I've answered this 3 times and I'm just repeating myself.
That's okay. Well, you don't have to answer. Everybody knows.
You can do genetic studies to also determine migration and intermixture, etc.
I think a better question. Hold on. I think a better question would be to define whiteness specifically.
Define whiteness specifically.
He did, SNEAKO. He said whiteness is when you speak in Indo-European.
I specifically didn't say that, brother.
Can I hear the definition? I want to hear Richard's definition of whiteness.
Oh, but just before he does it, because it's important, because he switched it. When I first, you can go back and watch the clip.
I said 3 times.
Okay,
language, race are different. We can study biological migration through language. It's very helpful. I don't think language equals race or race equals language. Just to be clear.
I know. That's what you're saying now. If you play the clip back,
it's fine.
Just wait.
For the sake of the conversation, let's have a clear definition so we can move forward.
Yeah. So how can we change it? But whatever. It's okay. Go ahead.
Yes. So a race is a subspecies of humankind, and there are largely 3 major subspecies, but we can argue about the blurry borders and so on. You know it when you see it. I don't think there's any real question about who is Aryan, European, white, or not.
Good. Okay. Now he's saying something else. In the beginning, brother, don't gaslight me. Okay, don't gaslight me, please, brother, because we can watch the clip again. When I asked you what satisfies whiteness or what an Aryan is, you said, well, they have to fall under the specific family class Indo-European. That's what you said, brother. That's why we went into the Roma and the Gypsy, because they also speak Indo-European language. Now, you're saying,
I responded to this.
Okay, no, just let me finish. You didn't respond. You just begged the question. Now you're saying, okay, well, whiteness is something that's self-evident. It's something, humanity has split race into 3 main categories, Caucasoid and whatever, and there's 3 main category, and white people are just self-evidently known. Well, I actually don't accept that premise that whiteness is self-evident. That's why I'm asking you, please give a definition that is exhaustive for what satisfies whiteness.
I'm not going to give an exhaustive definition. I'm going to try to give a basic definition so that we can move forward.
Why not exhaustive?
A race is a subspecies of humankind.
I asked you what whiteness is.
It's a large breeding pool, and we can trace the outlines of the breeding pool. Language is very helpful. Language is not perfect, as I've said multiple times now. Like an African American can speak English.
I didn't ask
that does not make him Indo-European.
You're not listening. I didn't ask you what race is. I asked you what satisfies whiteness. I didn't ask what race is.
I'm trying to define things objectively, and
Okay,
in terms
what
of satisfying
satisfies
whiteness,
whiteness?
that's another question.
No, that's what I asked. What satisfies whiteness? That's what I've been asking.
I'm trying to define these things objectively. Like what is whiteness? It's a kind of a blurrier question.
Lord have mercy, brother. You believe?
Listen, the races are actually given to us in the Bible, and they are the sons of Noah.
Now he believes in the Bible.
Japheth.
Now he believes in the Bible. Yo, come on, brother.
I don't have to believe that Yahweh is the creator of the universe to read the Bible and see what it is saying. What is the Bible telling us about the three sons of Noah? Japheth, Shem, and Ham.
Good. So to be
Ham
white
is going to be the ancestors of Africans, Ethiopians, etc. Japheth is the ancestor of the Aryans, the Europeans, if you will, etc. Shem gives us the word Semite, ultimately. Shem is going to be that strand. The Asians don't get represented.
Watch this, ladies and gentlemen, because you just dug a deep hole for yourself, Mr. Richard Spencer. In order for you to demonstrate what whiteness is, you had to resort to a biblical character in the time of Noah and say that to satisfy whiteness, you must be a descendant of such person. Now, according to, don't cut me off. According to the criteria you rejected the historicity of Christ for, is Noah and Japheth a historical person?
No.
So then what is whiteness if they are not historical persons?
Okay, first off, when you say satisfy the criteria of whiteness, I really don't understand what you're asking. I am trying to objectively describe what a race is. And I tried to do that.
I'm not asking what a race is. I'm asking what are the conditions that must exist such that somebody would be white?
They are part of this subspecies of humankind.
Dude, that's begging the question. They're white because they're part of whiteness. What is whiteness?
It's a breeding pool. I mean, what satisfies being a moose? It's a species.
That's a good question. What satisfies being a dog or a moose or certain characteristics.
What is a woman? I guess we're asking. I agree that there's a little bit of a tautology there, but I really don't we're talking about a category, so I don't really know how to satisfy.
So brother, this is the problem I have with your ideology, brother.
So you don't think race exists?
No, that's not what I said, brother.
Okay, I'm asking.
Race exists.
Okay.
And there's this race that you believe in called white people, Europeans. These people need to have their own ethno-state. They need to self-preserve their cultural identity. They need to survive. This is what biology and evolutionism dictates, right? Survival and stuff like that. Okay, fine. You put this category as whiteness. The white race must persist and must survive and must have an ethno-state and no immigrants and no mixing and so on and so forth. This is how we survive. Okay. I'm asking you now. I have two problems with this. The first problem is you are not actually able to tell me what satisfies whiteness in a way that is consistent with your view. Second issue is that even if you are able to give me an exhaustive, coherent criteria for what satisfies whiteness, the second issue would be why would you focus on the category white instead of category tribe, family, religion, civilization? Why is it that what groups the people together is being white instead of being American, or instead of being Muslim, or instead of being from so-and-so tribe?
Well, they're just different categories. I am a white American.
Okay,
I have two different categories. grew up in Texas and born in Massachusetts. Those are two more categories there.
And
a bit of a Yankee, bit of a Texan, bit of a Southerner.
I got
as well.
you.
These are just different categories. They're
I understand.
not mutually incompatible.
I understand. Just like white and non-white are different categories. The problem is,
those are different terms in the same category.
No, there are different there are subcategories.
No.
That's what a subcategory is. There's a category race,
yes,
and a subcategory different races, right? Exactly. So now let me finish with my point. So just like you said, oh, well, you know, being American and being Southern, there's different categories. I agree, but here's the problem. Just like being American or being Roman or being Muslim or being Jewish is a different category. The issue is you prefer one over the other with no virtue. Why? Why should we prefer a white group instead of a Southern white group or an Irish white group or an Anglophone white group? Why?
Well, those are subcategories, but why do I prefer Aryans to other people? Because we're the best.
I'm asking you why your focus.
We're the most beautiful. We're the most creative. We've created the most effective, successful civilizations. That's why.
Okay. And why can't, for example, Western Europeans say it is us who created the most successful nation? Eastern Europeans need to go.
They could say that if they want to.
Oh, they could.
Well, they often do.
Oh, okay, good. So then your ideology doesn't actually give us why we should prefer white race as a class instead of white Western European as a class.
I think I understand what you're saying. I do think that there is a sort of call to blood. It's sort of like asking, why do you prefer your own children? Why are you lavishing your own children with gifts? You never give a penny to the neighbor's children. Well, yeah, is the answer to that. We are humans. We are inherently tribal and inherently based on blood and family, etc. And that is just a part of who we are. So I like Aryans. I am sort of in their debt. I'm part of their team, whatever metaphor you want to use, in a way that I am not for Chinese.
Only when they're not Roma
that just
and Gypsy.
Is what it is.
Right.
But I would say that
only if they're not Roma and Gypsy,
to the degree that, I'll finish real quick, to the degree that I can step outside myself and put aside just pure blood loyalty, I would absolutely 100% say that Aryans are the greatest. We create the great art. We create science. We create civilizations that can flourish.
Let's
period.
Let's stay on that, okay?
Yeah.
Now, you didn't actually give me an answer to my critique, but I want to point out another issue. Remember, my critique was, you believe it is virtuous that this class of European or Aryan people must stay together as one unified, cohesive group. They must have an ethno-state, right? They must cohabitate and live and survive and marry each other and keep their lineage going. Okay, you could hold that. My view against that is, why is that more virtuous than a European doing that with his specific tribe? We are Germanic. We are cohesive. We deserve a Germanic ethno-state. Why is your idea more virtuous than this idea?
I get it. I think it's, in a way, largely historical. I mean, I think people have been more ethnocentric in the way that you're referring to. They've been more tribal in the past. With the onset of communications and transportation, we are part of a bigger block in the way that we weren't. We sort of were 100 years ago, but in the way that we weren't certainly 250 years ago. I think there are also deep problems with ethno-nationalism, as you're putting it. We had world wars that were, at the very least, sparked by some sort of ethno-nationalism, and those have been two of the most catastrophic things ever. So I don't.
What do you mean? Sorry,
in terms of more virtuous. Look, what is virtue?
Ethno-nationalism? Just wait 1 second. Ethno-national.
Yeah.
What do you mean? What do you mean by that?
An ethnicity. So I'm referring to an ethnicity as a kind of sub race. So you're not just European,
ethnicity.
You're German, but you're not.
Oh, I said Germanic.
Maybe not even German, because Germany is a collection of tribes. You're Prussian or something.
I said Germanic. Not
Okay.
German.
Well, that's already pretty broad, to be honest.
No. Oh, and white is it?
White is broad. I don't doubt that. But I'm just saying, Germanic is already quite broad.
Good. So broadness is not an issue.
Right.
Why can't somebody prefer the existence and persistence
They can.
and the superior? Okay, so your view is not more virtuous than this view, right?
They absolutely can, but I also
Is your
think
view more
that
virtuous?
a smaller nation state is going to be gobbled up, if not crushed by larger blocks. Vis-a-vis a billion and a half Chinese, Germany doesn't stand a chance.
Brother, is it more
with
virtuous?
a European Union? Germany does stand a chance. So I have a political preference for large blocks.
Okay, so I asked you, is it more virtuous? Was the question?
What do you mean by virtue? Because
is it better? Is there more benefit?
That virtue. Okay, what is the word virtue? What is the origin of the word virtue?
Oh my God,
you're gonna manliness.
So now we're gonna do what's his name?
We're more manly. We can kick more ass.
So now we're playing semantics.
Well, I don't want to engage in semantics.
What is virtue?
But hold on. Why I mention that is that many people will use virtue. They'll use the word virtue to refer to female chastity. Maintain your virtue, honey. Don't let him buy you a drink at the bar. Now, other people, Christians, will use virtue as sort of being a Christ follower or being like Christ, turning the other cheek, not resisting evil people, all that kind of stuff. When I mean virtue, I mean it etymologically. It means manly. It means kicking ass.
I don't mean it that way.
So,
I mean,
that's what I mean when I say it's more virtuous to have a united empire. We can kick a ton of ass around the globe when we are united as Aryans. When we're united as Germans, less ass is being kicked.
You're preaching now. You're just preaching
on
now,
some level. That's all I care about, to be frank.
You're just preaching. You're not actually dealing with. So my objection is it more morally excellent to unite as a white race instead of uniting as a white Germanic group?
Morality is gay. Like,
morality is gay?
Is it more moral? Probably not. I mean, but morality is not something morality in the sense of like Christian morality. Are we going to be like more pacifist or nice or whatever? I don't give a shit about any of those things. I want to be able to dominate other people. We need to be united so that we can be less moral.
Hey, brother, you've been talking to too many Jay Dyers and evangelicals, brother. That's what's going on. There's nothing. I
don't talk to them that much.
There's nothing in the word moral or moral excellence that implies pacifism.
Do you think Jesus was morally excellent?
Let me finish, brother. Let me finish. There's nothing about being morally excellent that implies this Christian idea of being subservient and being a fruit cup and loving your neighbor, not loving your neighbor, sorry, not hating your enemy and giving the other cheek. There's nothing that implies that, okay? All that is fruit cup.
You're speaking my language, brother. Islam sounds
so you should become a Muslim. So you should become a Muslim then.
Maybe.
So do you have a problem with this hypothetical white race practicing Sharia law? Being Muslim?
Yes. I grant that there are more manly virtues. It's a tautology in itself, redundancy. There are more manly virtues to Islam vis-a-vis Christianity taken as a philosophy. Now, have Christians engaged in colonialism, genocide, conquest? Of course they have. And in many times, not always, they've justified their desire for conquest through Christianity. And it's a great irony of history. But taken as philosophies, is Islam more badass than Christianity? Obviously it is.
Okay.
So but I don't want Aryans to adopt Abrahamism any
Why?
longer?
Why?
Well, because you're ultimately going to be subservient to Jewish ideas, Jewish scribes,
That's a misunderstanding of Islam.
Okay.
I just told you there is nothing Jewish about Islam. Islam is the furthest from rabbinic Judaism. That the correlations only exist because there is a remnants of divine revelation. Not everything Jews believe in is wrong. There's some things they believe in is true.
Sure.
And because it's true, we also believe it because we believe in what is true. But Islam, do you agree, for example, that Islam has produced the most successful dominant empire known to mankind?
Maybe in terms of territory, I'll take your word for it. But in terms of developing civilization, I wouldn't agree.
Oh yeah, like what?
I don't think it holds a candle to the Roman Empire, but
okay. What about
you can stick up for your people? I get it.
No, I want to challenge that. What about the Roman civilization is more civil than the Islamic civilization?
I don't want to answer it in the terms of civility, but they took Greek culture and they created a sort of infrastructure that could support Greek culture. They took the gods of the Greeks. They took so much of the literature and ideas of the Greeks. They were a civilizing force in the sense that they developed infrastructure, armies, plumbing, political systems, etc., that could hold up that culture
and practice a lot of homosexuality, right?
Well, they did at the end, but I mean, look, societies go decadent. There's a lot of homosexuality practice in the Muslim world.
Oh, look, no, there isn't. There is not.
Well,
there isn't, brother. Not in comparison to the West, brother. There's not. You can never make an experience and a comparison all throughout time. It is clear that European identity and culture, as long as it's been Christian, has actually been a failing civilization. Only when they moved away. Only when they moved away from Christianity in the Enlightenment period, they became economically successful. But
if Christendom is the Middle Ages, then I absolutely see that as a failing civilization. There are a lot of beautiful things about the Middle Ages. I don't want to totally defenestrate it, but in terms of literacy, social organization, hygiene, etc., it was a failing civilization. It was a dark period.
So you agree?
We started to pull ourselves out of it when we were rediscovering the ancients.
One sec, Richard.
Yes.
Do you agree? While Muslims were engaging in Aristotelian and Platonic philosophy and in medicine and in all kinds of sciences and building empires and schools and universities and hospitals, Europeans were not bathing for years on, living in shit in mud houses.
It's very good stuff. I mean, you were the Islamic golden age was a way of continuing the culture of the Greeks in a new form. And I think there's tons a lot to admire in Islam.
So it sounds like
but I'm
hypothetical ethno country full of white people needs Islam, brother. That's what you need.
I wouldn't use. I don't think we're living in a Muslim golden age now, and I feel like that darkness of superstition that Europeans descended into after the fall of Rome, at least in the West, that is what is Muslim people have descended to as
Richard,
well.
What I'm asking is,
I don't think real quick, just to put a cherry on top, I don't think the answer to all of this is more Abrahamic religion. I mean, we were truly Christian. We were 100% Christian at a point, at least after 1000 AD. And these are not times of greatness and enlightenment. We started to rediscover paganism and we became great again. And again, faith starts to fall off. Christianity starts to split. I mean, I do think that the Renaissance and the Enlightenment was a way of breaking the chains of Abrahamism for the
look,
white race.
Look, Richard, when I say why doesn't your hypothetical white ethno state be Muslim, I'm not necessarily asking why aren't they Muslim, as in Islam being true, as it relates or as it corresponds to reality. I'm asking, what is your issue with your hypothetical white ethno state being pragmatic Muslims that practice the law and the civil moral code of the Quran and the Sunnah?
If you are a practicing Muslim, you could exist within my hypothetical ethno state.
No, I'm saying why can't the white people be fully?
Yeah,
that's what I'm asking. Yeah.
Because I don't think we will have a great empire without rediscovering Apolloism and Roman Olympian worship. Now, am I a bigot who would want to prevent Muslims from engaging in their religion? No. But it would be subordinated. Roman religion has a way of hierarchy and subordination that was actually quite successful, although it failed with Yahweh. New gods can enter the pantheon. They can be secondary so long as it is Jupiterian or Apollonian in this sense. Now, the problem with monotheist is that you believe there is only one and that is the only way. And so there's a sort of intolerance within the monotheistic mind that is not present actually in the pagan mind, where you can understand other and confront other deities as expressions of peoples, that is ethnicities, as states, as ways of life, etc.
So, Richard, what I'm asking is, forget about monotheism for a second, because that's to do with the theological aspect. Would you have a problem with your hypothetical white ethno state practicing Sharia law?
That should not be the public faith, and that won't be the state religion.
What's the problem you have with Sharia law?
It's not so much the actual law. I'm sure there's plenty in Sharia law that would coincide with English common law. I don't want to get into these kinds of things.
You just said you don't prefer
a lot of.
You just said you don't prefer it. I want to know why.
We need to exit the Abrahamic matrix in order to establish this world order.
But this has nothing to do with being Abrahamic. This is just to do with the laws.
Islam is.
No.
In terms of Sharia law, look, I don't like what I see when I see Sharia law. I don't like
what?
The burqa.
That's what I'm asking. Like what?
I don't like the hijab. Yeah.
The what?
I don't like the hijab. I don't like it.
Okay, good. Okay, so now that's what I want you to say.
But that being said, I'll finish really quick. That being said, I don't know enough about Sharia law, and I'm sure there's plenty of Sharia law that I would find totally reasonable. But I would just say, in terms of its most ostentatious effects, I don't like it.
Okay, so you don't like it when your wife covers up. You like when men look at her?
Yes.
You want men to look at your wife?
There's a difference between men looking at your wife and men doing other things with your wife.
No, I said look.
I want to go back to an ancient world where we're just wearing togas and sandals, and you're just seeing cleavage and long legs. I just want to confirm. I do want to live like that. Yeah, I'm a more sensual person.
So you want me to look at your wife's cleavage?
You can look at my wife's cleavage, so long as you're not doing some other things, brother. You understand? I mean, brother,
look, if that's not cuckery, brother, I don't know what is. Brother, that is pure
that's
cuckery.
Not cuckery.
That is the opposite of the view you want us to hold to, that you're a strong man and survival of the fittest, and you want to dominate
strong
the world.
Man. We're self-confident. We're not terrified of other people cucking really, us unless we have to dress them up.
To be honest, Richard, I thought
bags.
Richard, I thought that you're a strong warrior, but it turns out that you're just a liberal, brother. You're a liberal. You think You think your wife should walk around
Did the Romans
with her tits
put
out?
women in burqas?
They were wrong. They were cucks.
Okay, that's fair enough. We simply disagree,
cucks.
but my
That's the
position,
problem, brother.
I want to live in a
They're cucks.
sensual society where we're surrounded by hot people. And
Oh, you want you want me to think you want me to think your daughters are hot, for example?
you can think my daughters are hot, like so
All right.
long as you're not doing other things. And I don't want to even mention this because it grosses me out. Yeah.
Oh boy. So what about that?
I think it's
is
beautiful.
manly?
I think it's beautiful
What about that is
when
masculine?
look, there's a difference between being a vulgar slut and going around showing off your ass or whatever. There is a distinction between that and a beautiful young girl who is conservative, but sure, a little sensual. And she looks pretty and wonderful.
So
There
what's
is a
the-
distinction.
There's
There's a hard line, and
What's
you
the
know where it is.
What's
There's
the
a difference between a slut and a young lady who
and a
is
young-
confident and beautiful.
And confident with her tits out and her ass out?
I just said that there is, and look, it is a line that you know it when you see it.
Should she
There's a
cover,
difference between like erotic art and pornography, right? You know it when you see it, right?
I think there's no difference. So
That's
look,
crazy.
No, it's not. It's not crazy. It's not, you're just looking at less extra skin, brother. That's
no,
it.
it's the intention.
But look, this is what I'm.
It's the intent. No, hold on. It's the intention in the
brother,
filmmaker.
It's not just the intention.
It is
brother.
an
It's
intention
about-
that you can
it's not-
discern.
Richard,
There's a
it's not-
filmmaker. Well, I'm
Richard,
going to
just
finish
go.
real quick. So I don't want to
finish.
interrupt. Look, there's a
Sure.
filmmaker that
Finish,
can
go on.
show a beautiful woman running through a field or jumping into the ocean, and it's sensual and it's wonderful. The intention of a pornographer is to most likely degrade sexuality, or at the very least depict it in a graphic, vulgar form. There just is a difference between being fun and being a skank. There's a total difference, and you know it when you see it.
So Richard,
Yes.
what I asked you is it okay for a woman to walk around with her breast out and with her other parts, special parts out? Is that okay, or should she
You mean
cover up?
unclothed breast and vagina even unclothed?
No, not fully unclothed, but
Okay.
unclothed enough. Is that okay? Do you think that's fine and acceptable in society?
Yes, in the sense of, and you see the female form and is it sensual? Yes, I do think that is fine. I want to live in a society where yes, women are free to act like that. Correct.
I got you. Now, why can't somebody say, I want to
Call me a
live in
libtard if you must.
So why can't somebody say, because look, the response you're going to give me here is going to work against you. Why can't somebody say, well, we want to live in a free society where women can just walk out commando. What's the problem with that?
I mean, just to reiterate, I've said this twice now. I mean, there
tell me
is a
what's the
line
problem
between
with that?
total vulgarity and sensuality.
I'm not asking about the
and
intention.
You know it when you see it.
Brother, I'm not asking about the intention, brother. What she intends, she wants to be a whore. That's not what I'm asking.
Would I see? Is there a difference between cleavage
Richard.
and full breasts?
Richard,
Of course there is.
You're not understanding, Richard. What are the societal effects in case A and case B?
Could you just tell me what A and B are again?
A woman walks around with her cleavage out enough that it, enlight or put desire and lust in another man who's looking for her at her. She's not fully unclothed, but it's enough to kind of spark that in a man who looks, right?
Yes.
And then a woman that's fully commando, fully unclothed. The societal effects
Amanda.
in point A, in example A and example B. What is the difference? Why is
I think
one
there is
societally
a
better than the
really
other?
big difference.
Okay, tell me. What are the societal benefits of A and B?
A woman that's wearing shorts and you can see some legs or a skirt or so on, it's sensual and it inspires desire. I agree. And it makes life fun, for lack of a better word. A woman full commando, it's simply demeaning.
It makes
it's
life...
actually, it's overly sexual, maybe even depressing.
Good.
We can have discernment and have difference.
One sec, Richard.
Yeah.
According to whom is it overly sexual? And according to whom? According to you. So you don't think,
we're talking about preference here.
Okay, good. So Richard, you don't think?
Can we agree on this?
Just one second.
Women should be in burqas.
Come on, brother. That's not. Come on, brother.
I was just joking.
Yeah, but anyways, look. You agree
showing
then?
Too much belly.
You agree then that your positions and worldviews are not stance independently true?
Yeah, because I'm not a monotheistic extremist who thinks that if I see a little leg that I'm going to go rape this woman or something, I can't control myself. So I have discernment and taste. Yes.
Yeah. So if that's how you want to talk, then we're not liberal cuckolds who want their women and their wives to be stared at by random men. But if you want to throw shots like that, I certainly can, brother. But you don't have to say, "Oh, extremist who sees a leg and says I'm going to go rape." So that just tells me.
One thing that I've noticed with some religious fundamentalists, it seems to be all or nothing.
No, it's not all or nothing. It's not all or nothing.
It does seem to be all or nothing. You made no distinction between showing a little leg and being fully commanded.
I said there's no distinction societally, not an intention. Yes, a woman can have the intention of being a straight whore and dress a certain way. Another can think, oh yeah, this is.
A woman can be a whore and wear a burqa.
That's what. Yeah, of course. But we're not talking about that. We're not talking about intention. We're talking about the societal effect. Because you're trying to produce this great empire society. White people dominate. We're manly.
I think the societal effects of putting women in full burqas is terrible.
Just let me finish. I know you think it's terrible because you're a cuck, brother. That's it.
Well,
you want other women to be naked. You want your woman to be naked. And don't cry now because you implied that I'm an extremist who looks at a naked leg and says, you said that first, brother. So let's not play that game.
Don't you get the impression when you can't handle a little leg that maybe you have no self-control whatsoever?
No, that's not what I said.
Like
I'm not talking about.
I can see a woman walk down the street in a bikini. I see it all the time. In fact, because it's summer out here. I don't go rape them.
Sure, let's look at the stats. Who has more rape statistics, the West or the Middle East and Muslim countries?
Well, who has more rape statistics? The West obviously does, but we have more statistics in general.
Okay, good. No, but
we don't know what's going on in the Middle East.
We sure don't. So in this area, just look, Richard, because you tried to play it off. Now we're going to talk numbers. In the West, 95% of women report, this is in the UK, 95% of women report that they've been sexually harassed at least once in their life. Is that right, Richard?
I imagine that is correct, but we need to talk about the definition. What is that? Someone slaps their butt? Or something, or someone actually rapes them. I mean,
you can include all of those things. Richard, let me finish, brother. If you compare that with Muslim societies, it's not even going to be close. Now, Richard, are you going to stand here and tell me that the way women dress has no bearing on that number?
I think it does have bearing on it, but I think it might even go in the other direction.
Good, man.
I can't believe you're putting forth like Middle Eastern societies as paragons of.
Yes, they are. Actually. Yes, they are. We could talk about that.
There's a lot of social problems in Middle Eastern societies that I don't want to go into because it's a bit rude.
Before we go into that, you conceded that a woman who shows her cleavage, even if it's not fully naked or she's not a slut, like you said, this causes societal harm. You conceded, brother.
No, I didn't concede that.
Yes, you did. You said it causes.
I think it causes much worse harm.
Good. It causes more harm.
I think it causes much worse harm to put a woman in a burqa and demean her like that. I think sensuality in society. Look, it's like salt on food. Food is terrible. It's bland without a little salt. Put too much salt, it's inedible.
So that's what women.
Yeah, it's a matter of discretion and taste. I think a lot of Arab men. Why there are many different social problems, including homosexuality, is because they don't have that natural,
Richard.
sensual encounter with
Richard,
women.
you just admitted, Richard, that your view of women is it is public ownership. You publicly own this woman. They need to be salted a little bit so you can devour them with your eyes, Richard. So that's the view you have of women.
Well,
they are
you
public
sort of
property.
poetically.
No, they are public property. You deserve to salt the women that you're looking at so you could devour them. We respect
that's
women.
not what I
We
said.
don't- Yeah, that is what you said. That's
there
that's
is a
the
big-
analogy you
well,
gave. That's the analogy,
The analogy
you
I
gave, brother.
gave is sensuality and
Salt the woman.
assault and salt. No.
Salt the woman,
Salt
brother.
and sensuality are the analogs. So you put a little salt on a steak, it's wonderful. Put too much, can't eat it. Sensuality and society, a little bit goes a long way. It makes everything wonderful, makes our lives joyful. If you have too much, it becomes vulgarity
For
at
who
some
to
point.
taste. For who to
Yes,
taste.
because we have taste and discretion,
No,
because we're
Richard,
adults.
I said for whom to
You know,
taste.
there's some movies that that I'll allow my children to watch that I wouldn't have let them watch just a year ago. You can sort of get get a little darker, a little more dangerous. Maybe when they're 3, they should only be watching cute cartoons. Maybe when they're 10, they can watch something that might have a little tragedy or violence to it so that they can have that experience. It's called taste and discretion. It's not an all or nothing thing where we can't. And there are certainly things that I watch as a grown man that I would never show a 10-year-old. But I can watch it and I can experience it because I'm an adult and I have discretion and taste. I can understand artistic representation.
Thank you for agreeing.
I don't want to
with me.
live in a society where
Richard,
everything
let me
is
talk, man. Come on,
puritanically
you're going
defined.
forever,
We've
brother.
done that as Westerners.
Richard, you just admitted that woman dressing that way is not good for kids on the street to look at, right, Richard?
It didn't say that.
Richard, you just said there are some movies that you don't let your kids watch. Richard, why is that?
Yeah, well, there's death in Star Wars, but they can handle the way that it is represented in Star Wars. They can't handle it in the way that it's represented in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre or something like that. You have distinctions that you make in a society. This is merely a preference. I want a society that is more sensual and joyful. You don't answer it's fine.
Questions.
It's just merely an assertion or a preference. We'll just disagree.
Do you allow your kids to look at half-naked women in movies?
Half naked in the sense of like wearing a bikini? Yes.
Wow. So you think kids should be, walking around looking at women with bikini?
Well, they did that just yesterday when we were at the beach. So yes.
Man. All right. So Richard here wants a society where kids look at bikini photos and where kids or when men look at his wife.
100%. There's nothing better than a beautiful woman in a bikini walking into the ocean or lake. I can't imagine anything more beautiful, actually.
Good. So Richard, you have no problem.
I don't want to live in a society where that is impossible.
Right. Yeah,
and men are so repressed that they might actually be more inclined to engage in violence because they can't get anything.
Thank you. I'm glad you told us that, Richard.
Islam also bans representational imagery.
Come on, brother. You just keep going. Brother, I want to ask you a question.
Hold on. We've discussed the bikini thing. I have said my point. Okay.
Can I talk,
do you think that art should be representational?
Art?
Yes. The Mona Lisa. It's a representation of a woman done sensually. Do you think that is haram?
No, I don't think that portraits of naked women should exist anywhere.
Didn't say naked women. I said the Mona Lisa, right? Or maybe
I
you don't.
I don't think portraits that are contrary to Islamic law should be public. No.
Is in Sharia law is a representational image verboten or forbidden?
If it clearly is an image of life. If it's an object that has life in it. If it's a lifeless object,
forbidden,
there's no problem. Yeah, because that would lead to idolatry.
You can do and I guess does an apple have life or no? Okay, so you could do a plant, but you couldn't do a woman or
it. So are you trying to imply that the bodies of women are art for you to look at?
In a way, yeah.
What the flip is going on, brother?
Yeah, I'm a terrible liberal, I guess.
So Richard, you are.
I also think the idea of
Richard. Richard, You actually changed my mind about you today. I came into this conversation thinking that you are alternative right. You are the guy. You're extremist. You called for, that Haitians should be enslaved, but really you're just a liberal inside who wants his woman to be looked at by people like me and enjoy her. Do you want us to enjoy your wife, Richard, by looking at her?
There is a distinction between sexual intercourse.
I didn't say sexual. I said by looking at her.
Admiring someone with your eyes.
Should I enjoy your wife by looking at her?
You can enjoy my wife by looking at her. I don't
All right,
know.
man. I guess that concludes that, brother.
I wanted to ask one before you go on to another subject. Can you,
Thank you so much,
Richard, you were saying that there's a line. Is that vague? Is there a gray area? What is that specific line if you're against the hijab?
It is, a lot of times the line is blurry. A woman can wear a bikini in a way that's sensual. A woman can be out there and it's a little too much and it's bordering on vulgarity, even if she doesn't show her nipples and vagina. So yeah, it's a little bit of a difficult one, but like pornography, that's the definition of pornography from the Supreme Court. You know it when you see it. We live in a society that is far too vulgar for my taste in terms of the way many, not all, but many young people dress, in terms of what's acceptable in music, etc.
So how is that
I'm not
fixed?
going to then say that we need to ban it all, or that you can't go to the opera and enjoy La Traviata because it depicts sexuality. I think we should, as adults, be able to make distinctions like this. Yes.
Okay. And your ideology is based on the idea of Apolloism. How would you define that?
Well, I mean, we want to recenter the Western world on Roman religion, and we want to break ourselves out of Christianity most immediately, but Abrahamism more generally.
Are you a pagan?
And yes, I'm a pagan.
So you believe in the gods of Zeus and the old Roman traditions?
I believe in them in the sense that I think that they are archetypes of states of being, virtues, and even racial and ethnic archetypes. And to that extent, I believe in them. I don't believe in them in the way that a Christian believes in Jesus, in the sense of he actually existed, or I'm going to hell if I don't put my faith in him.
Okay. And I'm not trying to, put you in a bad light, but you started off by saying you weren't a white supremacist when you were asked, but this seems like it's the supreme ideology and this is how the world should be. Why did you answer no to that question?
Well, when they say white supremacist, it's a bit of a slur, and I would rather just sort of define what I believe. You can call it whatever you will.
Okay.
But also, SNEAKO, he said that he doesn't think his ideologies are stance independently true, which means that he doesn't think that his ideology is true. He just thinks that it is a preferable for him, but there's no reason that anybody else should adopt it. That's what he thinks.
So is that comparable to white Zionism in a sense? It's like, do you look at Israel and think that this is something that white people should, however you define white, should emulate?
Yeah, it's funny. I talked about this. It must have been 10 years ago, if not a little bit longer ago, where I gave a speech about how immigration is sort of over. The America has already been transformed demographically, and we should start thinking about big ideas. And I used Zionism as an example of this. The Jews had been scattered for some time through an ideologue, much like Paul, in this case Herzl. They came up with a strategy, a movement, and a geopolitical plan to create a new homeland. And I don't think that anything I'm doing is directly analogous. It's not like, oh, we're going to do Israel, but for white people. It's no. But, can you see some inspiration there? Can you understand what he was going for? Sure.
Okay. Do you find that to be reprehensible, what Israel is doing? Or you said earlier that morality is gay. So where do you get your ideas of good and bad? How did you arrive at this conclusion that Apolloism is the way?
Right. Well, I'm being a bit flippant when I'm saying morality is gay, but what I mean by that is that very oftentimes people who are in a weaker position or who are sick or themselves will make recourse to morality, in the sense that if you're a little mouse being attacked by a bird of prey, the mouse might make recourse to morality and say, oh gosh, that's so immoral what you're doing to me. Morality is itself a kind of weapon that can be used against other people. I don't think there's an objective morality outside of survival. But that's not exactly Christian morality. I think Christianity was given as a gift in a way to Europeans as a way of weakening them to a great extent, as a way of confronting Rome and offering a different way forward for Romans and et cetera. And as a sort of like bad conscience in their mind that could always be called upon. You know, it's evil to be strong. It's evil to dominate others. It's evil even to be great. You should be like Jesus. And I do think that we need to rethink these moral systems that the Abrahamic religions have given us.
One
I think
more
it's
question.
good to be strong. I think it's good to dominate. I think it's good to be the best. And it's very bad to be weak or ill or soft and so on.
So
I
without,
hope you I just want to add something right quickly there before you go. That is not a product of Abrahamic religion. That's a product of Europeans adopting Abrahamic religion and then moving away from Abrahamic religion principles. Because dominating and all those things are biblical, polygamous marriages and all those things.
Right.
When Europeans adopted those things, they stopped practicing them. Just wanted to mention.
Don't
that. Go
you
ahead,
think
SNEAKO.
that morality is embedded in, say, the Sermon on the Mount?
Just one second.
I get it, I know.
SNEAKO was going to say something.
yeah, the Enlightenment
Yeah,
era and European
Yeah.
expansion, this was adopted, and they used Christianity as a tool of empire, but it wasn't authentic to the teachings of Jesus. No, not at all.
What I would say about Gazans or Palestinians in general is that, like, look, you can call upon morality, and it works with me. In fact, I genuinely feel sympathy for victims in Gaza. I've never supported our relationship with Israel. I don't support Israel now. So I get it. I feel sympathy. But the question is, do you just simply want Westerners to feel sympathy, or do you want to win? And if you want to win, you're going to have to be more and more evil. I mean, those liberals who are now, crying tears over Gaza aren't going to get you any closer to having a state. You're going to have a state. You're going to have to dominate. You're going to have to kill people. You're going to have to be more and more evil. So there's just a limit to the kind of crocodile tears I can cry over morality. It's like, yeah, I don't want those children to die. I don't want those buildings to be destroyed. I don't want those lives to be ruined. But, I have things to do. Like, if Palestinians want to win, they're going to have to, like, move beyond this victim morality of, like, because I suffered, I deserve a state, or I deserve a state because, democracy good or something. They're going to have to discover something evil in order to create something good.
I think the objectives are different. I think the Palestinians want to survive. You're saying you want to win. What is winning?
Winning is flourishing. It's not merely surviving. It's dominating, expanding. That's winning.
Okay, and you said that morality is subjective and that you don't believe in objective morality, but you said being strong is good, which is a byproduct of morality. how did you
No.
arrive at this conclusion? No. So how do you know what's good and bad without objective morality?
There is no objective morality. Morality is all subjective. It's all in our minds. The things are good or bad, but thinking makes it so. To quote Hamlet, like we value something by seeing it and putting a label on it. That's how we engage in morality. There's no morality that's sort of like out in the world. There's no morality in nature. The morality of nature is kill or be killed, reproduce, dominate, conquest, expand, etc.
Can I say something on that?
Yeah, morality is totally subjective.
Okay, so I would disagree. Morality cannot be subjective because there are phenomena throughout human history that must be explained. For example, what explains the phenomena, the idea that peoples that are isolated from one another, that are culturally and socially independent from one another, all seem to have the same pattern of conduct and same conclusions? Why is it that, for example, all humanity throughout time has concluded that it's wrong to murder? Do you think they just came up with that and it's just a coincidence that all cultures across
I don't think
human
it's a
history?
coincidence.
Okay, so then it stands independently true and embedded in human nature.
Well, it's sort of embedded in human nature. Humans have no problem murdering other peoples. They have no problem murdering enemies.
I didn't say
They
it's
engage
a
in murder of one another in a civil war. But yes, we have an evolved sense of, to murder one's own child is maybe like the most shocking thing imaginable, in fact, because of our like deep kinship there.
Oh, brother.
Now, murdering an invader, someone from another tribe, that's great. That's heroic.
Brother, but that's not
No,
murder. Brother, but that's not murder. Remember, you're conflating killing and murder. Murder is defined as the taking away the life of an innocent soul. And invading external entity is not an innocent soul. So I'm not talking about all of that, okay? What explains that all these cultures throughout humankind, isolated from one another, culturally and socially isolated and independent from one another, all come to the same conclusion: killing innocent lives is wrong? What explains that?
I think he disconnected, or he's back. Your mic's off.
Web browser just went out for some reason.
You're back.
Did you hear my question?
We're talking about like murder versus just killing, right?
No, that's not versus. I'm saying, how did all these cultures across human history that are isolated and independent from one another, culturally and socially, come to the same conclusion unanimously that killing innocent people is wrong?
I don't think we've ever actually believed that. We learn to not kill people within our group so that we can have a functioning tribe. And that is an evolved behavior. But in terms of killing other tribes, we're evolved to be killers.
Yeah, so that's just simply not true, because we could look at what ancient Romans did, ancient Indians, ancient Chinese, ancient Japanese,
they killed
ancient
a lot
Indians.
of people.
No, brother, I'm talking about murder, brother. You stop conflating it. So you're saying,
okay, I just said, are you
brother,
making a distinction between killing and murder? And you said no, and then now you're saying yes.
I said we're not talking about what the distinction is, because I assume you already know it. Okay?
Okay.
I'm asking, it is evident and clear that ancient peoples didn't think you could just kill someone because they're from a different tribe than you.
Well,
is that what they believed?
Well, there was a lot of conquest. I mean, we are descended from the people who won.
Dude, I am not talking about...
Keep that in mind. The pacifists, those are not our ancestors. The pacifists were ground into dust.
Brother, can you track?
We're descended from killers, brother.
Brother, I'm not talking about conquest.
So that's
because then it's not murder. I'm not talking about conquest. Not talking about war.
Hold on. Define murder means like I go and kill my neighbor in the middle of the night or something.
Yeah, something like that. The taking of the soul of an innocent person.
Right.
Did ancient people cross-culturally think that just because somebody is different, they deserve to die?
Well, you brought in difference. I'm going to ignore that. And I'm just going to use the example of I just go kill my neighbor because I just want to. I have bloodlust.
Why is that wrong? Did they think that's wrong?
Because if
not why is it wrong? Not why is it wrong? Did they think it's wrong?
Yeah, they did think it's wrong, and then they thought it's wrong for a very long time, long before the Abrahamic religion.
What explains the unanimous agreement, although they were socially and culturally isolated and independent?
Right, because the people who had too much sadism and bloodlust destroyed societies that were not successful and died out. Or those people who had the genes for sadism and bloodlust, they just wanted to kill their neighbor, kill dogs and cats, etc. Those people were executed by society as criminals. And so they did not pass on those genes to the extent that they would dominate society. If we're all killing our neighbors because we love murder, then the society is going to break down. But if you have a consensual relationship with teamwork where we can kill the other tribe, then you're going to win and be successful.
Brother, that's my point. Why?
But it's just evolved behavior. You see, look,
brother, just let me respond.
Don't eat each other.
Let me respond to you, brother. Okay.
Okay.
Let's say there's a given tribe. They agree, let's not kill each other. We need to survive.
Right.
But did they think that just because they come across somebody from another tribe, they can kill them?
Yeah, often they did.
Okay,
if we're honest, we're talking about like prehistoric man. I mean, sure.
Yeah. You're just making. What's the evidence?
But look, think about this.
What's the evidence? No. What's the evidence, please? Evidence.
I'm using fish. So these are like our deep ancestors.
I'm not talking about fish. I'm talking about moral agents.
Fish have morality, brother.
The whole point is that I'm talking about
eat each other.
Moral agents. What fish? I'm talking about human beings.
I don't think we're moral agents. I think we come up with morality as justification.
I know. That's my point. So
let me just make this point.
You actually don't know how to have a conversation.
In a river, they will not kill one another. A piranha does not eat another piranha, but they will eat other animals. So they have morality. You see morality even in like very, very old species of vertebrates. Insects have a morality in a way. What that morality is what is the best way to reproduce.
You are not addressing my point, Richard. That's my point. Fish do that. Animals do that. Humans don't. That's my point.
We do.
What? Okay, prove it.
Well,
show evidence. Show evidence.
Man's inhumanity to man needs no proof. Look at Gaza.
Show evidence that ancient humans from ancient India, ancient Japan, ancient China, ancient Arabia thought that just because you're from a different tribe, you have to die. You should die.
They might not have said that, but in terms of ancient humans engaging in warfare with competing tribes, I mean, I'm not sure.
Dude, I'm not talking about warfare. Oh my God. Warfare is not murder.
Well, it involves bloody murder, killing of innocents, no doubt.
Dude, bloody
murder is an indispensable component of warfare.
Brother, I'm telling you, brother, you gotta have like room temperature IQ at this point. You can't even track the conversation, brother.
No,
track the conversation.
First off, brother, I don't appreciate the insults, and I've not insulted you this entire time.
You have. Right? You said I'm an extremist. I'm an extremist who looks at women.
Well, you kind of are, brother, but I meant that as a compliment,
who looks at women and wants to rape them. You said that about me earlier.
What?
So don't. Yeah, you said I'm an extremist, but when he looks at a leg of a woman, he wants to rape her.
I didn't literally say that. I said that.
Oh my God, that's what you said.
I don't want to pick nits. All I'm saying is I don't want to nitpick here. All I'm saying is I haven't called you low IQ or anything like that. So I don't appreciate you're doing that, and so let's just not do it. All right. But
No, that's fine. You don't, and I don't appreciate you saying I'm an extremist who wants to rape women when he sees their leg. I don't appreciate that either.
okay.
But
Yeah,
here we
let's
are,
not
right?
do the insults because this was getting somewhere. So
Yeah.
why do you feel sympathy for the people in Gaza, the children, if Israel is just protecting their nation, right? If they are looking for their own, why is this incorrect and why is this bad?
I have nothing against Palestinians and Gazans. I do feel a natural empathy with fellow men dying. And so I don't want it to happen. There's no need for it to happen. I have no grudge against Palestinians. I wish them the best.
Okay. But it sounds like, maybe I'm incorrect, that you would like this for, you want the spread of your nation with whites. It sounds like there's some sort of comparison.
We might have to do evil things when we're creating an empire. We've certainly done that before. But it's not, Israel, Jews and Muslims fighting, it's not really my concern.
Okay. So yeah, I think we got to some concluding point. If there's any final questions that either party wants to ask.
Well, yeah. So I'll just maybe have some concluding remarks. I appreciate the conversation with Richard Spencer. Obviously, it got a little bit heated here and there, but that's expected when you're arguing about topics that are fundamental to one's worldview. I do appreciate you being here. I appreciate SNEAKO for hosting this. I enjoyed it a lot. It was a pleasure discussing these things. We went through several topics. Forgive me if you felt insulted. Yeah, maybe it wasn't the best remark to say. I also felt disrespected earlier with what you said, but it's okay. It happens.
Yes.
It happens.
I've forgiven your remarks, and I would echo what you said. Thanks for inviting me on here, SNEAKO. And I would say, Orthodox Muslim, you do bring a breadth of knowledge, and I think you are a good faith actor. And that is one of the highest compliments I could give to someone who is an ideological opponent. I think you're acting in good faith, and I think you have studied this extensively, and I respect that.
Thank you, brother. You as well. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate people willing to have these discussions. A lot of people don't want to, and it's important. And this is free speech. This is democracy. This is American values, right? So thanks to both of you coming on. And I would also like to interview both of you individually at a point. I'll text you privately about that. Thanks for coming on.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Bye. Salam.